And now, the best 60-ish seconds of your week. And as we last weekend solemnly paid our respects and expressed our gratitude to those who gave that final full measure of devotion in service to our country, amidst all of the parades and picnics and barbecues and times at the shore and up at the mountains, we move on into the beginning of summer. And, of course, high school graduations are upon us, having just moved from college graduations. And if you happen to listen to any of these commencement speeches, you may have heard some of the kookiest stuff yet. Our college campuses have just been inundated with woke nonsense, and nowhere is it more on full display than in some of these commencement addresses, including suggestions that we eat insects to help the climate change. It gets nuttier and nuttier. And now the 2024 presidential race really heats up with the warm days of summer as President Trump and Governor DeSantis both head to Iowa, first of the nation primary for Republicans, a place where both candidates and others have to do exceptionally well. They used to say there were 3 tickets out of Iowa. There may only be 2 this time around, but there is a plethora of Republican candidates and more to come, suggesting, as I said last week, that Republicans really believe they have an opportunity to retake the White House next year. I'm one that believes that, and I'm one that knows they need to because the country is in serious trouble. The questions now are going to be, when will Ron DeSantis really go after Donald Trump? President Trump has no problem going after him. He's going to have to figure out how to return fire. He can't simply continue with talking about Florida. And as he moves to Iowa, a state very different from his own, he's got to reintroduce himself, or in many respects, introduce himself to the people of Iowa. And they expect to see candidates up close and personal. They want them in their homes, in their churches, at their civic organizations and social clubs, even at their Little League games. They want to see the candidates. And as I've suggested many times and will continue to suggest, see them over time and under pressure. And while DeSantis is kind of the story du jour, at the same time he was announcing, or the same week, Senator Tim Scott, another very interesting candidate, came out onto the track to say, I'm here to run as well, with a great personal story and some interesting policy prescriptions. You've already got Nikki Haley from the same state. You have Asa Hutchinson, immediately past governor of Arkansas, and now there's talk about Chris Christie, the Republican that a lot of Republicans like to hate, but he would certainly mix it up. He debates well, and he certainly wants to take on President Trump. The issue ultimately, though, is how many anti-Trump lanes are there? Donald Trump has his very firmly cemented, and his base doesn't move dramatically, but his base isn't big enough to win ultimately. He's got to cobble together other constituencies and bring more folks to the table, and that's the challenge for his campaign, while at the same time fending off those that are going to try to grab little pieces here and there. But just a historic perspective. 8 years ago, Donald Trump hadn't yet descended on that escalator at Trump Tower to announce his candidacy. So all that's going on this time around is really very, very early. And as I wrote in a column last week, there are some analogies to 1968. No analogies are perfect, but in 1968, an incumbent president who was beleaguered within his own party and nationally, all sorts of policy problems and cultural divides, etc., Lyndon Johnson was the forerunner until the first primary, after which he dropped out of the race. So a lot yet to happen, but the early game is on, and folks are watching closely. And we're going to be paying attention to summer. We're into the time where high school graduations are the peak, as I suggested earlier, and we're going to be looking to bring you the summer reading list in just a little bit. But for now, that is the best 60-ish seconds of your week.